Do you happen to remember it well? The airstrike, I mean.
Yeah. October 13th. Cluster bomb. Town was shook up pretty bad. The army just wasn't able to capture the place. And Colonel Arcanteros, he did not tolerate failure. So he asked foreign powers to intervene. Come in, break the guerrillas' resolve.
Right. And the evidence in the commission report, doesn't it point to CSAT?
Yeah. But truth can be the first casualty of war.
Sure, but didn't somebody witness them in action?
From a distance, yeah. Though he wasn't exactly what you'd call reliable. Guy was a goat herd. Barely spoke any English.
That was not in the report I read.
It never is. Still, he did say they came down by parachute, and that at least was corroborated by multiple sources.
حرکت میبینم. سلاح ایستا 600 متر غرب. عقب نشینی. فهمیدم.
These operatives, then? They moved in on the castle?
Yep. Must have been a fire team at least.
The man who claimed to have seen all of this, is there anything else you can tell me about him?
Not much. Like I say, simple goat herd. Lived alone. Small stone shed just north of the castle.
Okay, let's get back to CSAT. What were they doing there, on Altis, at this time?
They were an embedded training team, ETT. Officially, they were just there to oversee counterinsurgency operations.
And unofficially?
Anyone's guess. A lot of different rumors. Black sites, car bombs, false flags.
درگیری. مسلسلچی 75 متر در جلو. درگیری. سرباز 75 متر در جلو.
هدف مشخص. درگیری. مسلسلچی 100 متر جلوتر. درگیری. تیرانداز 100 متر در جلو.
The guerrillas were taken out, one by one.
درگیری. تیرانداز 75 متر جلوتر.
When things kicked off, there was a short burst of panicked radio chatter.
درگیری. مرد 75 متر جلوتر.
سلاح‌ها آزاد. درگیری مسلسلچی 100 متر سمت راست ما درگیری سرباز 75 متر پهلوی راست عقب بشینید
درگیری مسلسلچی 100 متر سمت راست ما درگیری سربازها هدف کنترل شد درگیری تیرانداز
درگیری افسر
These operatives, then? They moved in on the castle.
Yep. Must have been a fire team at least.
عقب بشینید
دریافت شد پوشش میدم برو
The man who claimed to have seen all of this, is there anything else you can tell me about him?
Not much. Like I say, simple goat herd. Lived alone. Small stone shed just north of the castle.
Okay, let's get back to CSAT. What were they doing there, on Altis, at this time?
They were an embedded training team, ETT. Officially, they were just there to oversee counterinsurgency operations.
And unofficially?
Anyone's guess. A lot of different rumors. Black sites, car bombs, false flags.
درگیری خمپاره 200 متر جلوتر
هدف مشخص
درگیری مسلسلچی 100 متر در جلو
برو
درگیری مرد 100
The
متر در
guerrillas were
جلو
taken out one by one.
هدف رو میبینم درگیری خمپاره 100 متر در جلو درگیری مسلسل
And things kicked off with a short burst of panicked radio chatter.
درگیری سرباز 100 متر جلوتر
درگیری افسر 100 متر در جلو
هدف گیری شد هدف مشخص مشخص.
سربازها به میل خودتون شلیک کنین.
درگیری 775 متر در جلو. آماده شلیکم. درگیری 775 متر در جلو.
Then silence. If we're to believe the goat herd, they then set up a position on the battlements, moved to a vantage point on the castle's outer wall.
من پوشش میدم. برو. من پوشش میدم. برو.
Okay, according to my notes, several targets were identified from afar, presumably by these special forces at the castle. Once they had a handle on what was what, they called it in. A jet approached from the east and dropped a single bomb. The positions in the town were then destroyed, but the church and IDAP's camps were left untouched. Does that match up with events as they were given to you?
Yeah, though to manage a guided strike like that, they must have had thermal imaging.
دشمن داریم. افسر نیم کیلومتر جنوب غرب. درگیری. تیرانداز از خفا 600 متر سمت 210. درگیری. مسلسلچی مرد 600 متر سمت 210.
اوکی بزن بری. به شکلی درگیری مسلسلچی 600 متر سمت 210.
درخواست حمله هوایی به موقعیت فرستاده شد. تمام.
Copy that. Strike aircraft on the way. Out.
Do you know why the government signed off on such a heavy-handed response? A cluster bomb? That's rather indiscriminate, even if it was laser-guided.
Sure, I mean, with a designator, you just switch it on, aim it at, well, whatever. The idea is that you remain in place, keep the laser on target. But even if it's done perfectly, a lot of uncontrolled variables. One of our doctors was out on the front line with medical supplies.
Wait, he wasn't at the church?
No, he was out in the open. By all accounts, the town just seemed to explode. Buildings were burning for days.
And this spotter, he just disappeared?
Yeah.
یه نفر کشته شد درگیر تو مسلسل
Okay, according to my notes, several targets were identified from afar, presumably by these special forces at the castle. Once they had a handle on what was what, they called it in. A jet approached from the east and dropped a single bomb. The positions in the town were then destroyed, but the church and IDAP's camps were left untouched. Does that match up with events as they were given to you?
Yeah, though to manage a guided strike like that, they must have had thermal imaging.
درخواست حمله هوایی به موقعیت فرستاده شد. تمام.
Copy that. Strike aircraft on the way. Out.
Do you know why the government signed off on such a heavy-handed response? A cluster bomb? That's rather indiscriminate. Even if it was laser-guided.
Sure, I mean, with a designator, you just switch it on, aim it at, well, whatever. The idea is that you remain in place, keep the laser on target. But even if it's done perfectly, a lot of uncontrolled variables. One of our doctors was out on the front line with medical supplies.
Wait, he wasn't at the church?
No, he was out in the open. By all accounts, the town just seemed to explode. Buildings were burning for days.
And this spotter, he just disappeared?
Yep. Last seen leaving the castle, heading west.
Let's talk about IDAP's doctor. He said he was on his way to the church. Did he make it there?
No. He lost his life. Killed trying to save others. I can certainly say the devastation was severe. Dozens killed, combatants and non-combatants alike. The guerrillas, they were in total disarray. Many fled, retreating to the mountains. And IDAP, we did what we could, but there were so many wounded. So many we'd never be able to identify.
Nathan?
No, I'm still here. I just need to grab something real quick. This'll only take a sec.
I understand that CSAT denied any involvement.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe with good reason.
Oh?
Look, I don't know. There were shell casings found at the castle. NATO mil-spec.
Okay, so then either they were supplying the guerrillas or...
Or they were there. Maybe trying to win back the government support. Maybe...
What?
I don't know.
Hear that? Sounds like our delivery drone.
I'm on it.
Just, check the box underneath for the toolkit.
I swear to God, Andy, if it's empty again...
That was one time. Trust me, you'll be dicking around with landmines soon enough, Mac.
Good, toolkit's here. See you later, little buddy.
What's that?
Nothing, just, talking to myself.
Okay, little buddy. Sure thing.
Hey, how are you getting on?
Not bad, not bad. Our gear's finally arrived from dispatch. I can start deactivating mines and leftover ordnance now.
Oh, right. And do you do that by hand?
Sure do. Crawl up close, identify it, and then just, disarm the thing.
I'm sure it's more involved than that.
Yeah, well, I may have skipped the part where, it can explode. You were one sneaky little bastard. Now, what were you hiding upstairs? There's an old photograph here. Picture of Alexis and his brother Marcos. Hey, Andy.
Yep. What's up?
What's the deal with the church? Can we get in or what?
Sorry, Mac. No dice. NATO's got first dibs. They're bringing their boys home. Bag and tag. Best leave them to it.
I'll come back later.
Hey, fuckhead! You wanna watch where you're walking?
The civilian killed at the church. The landmine, right?
Yeah. Although honestly, it was a small miracle he'd made it that far.
Tell me more about Marcos.
Poor guy. He always seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He'd made it through the airstrike, but only to get caught up in the assault that followed right after.
There were still guerrillas in the town, even after the strike.
But Oreo Castro, it wasn't just a town. It had become a symbol of the resistance. It was important for both sides, and government forces were making their final push. Alexis had made it out, but his brother? Like I say, Marcos was always shit out of luck. The guy had been waiting at his brother's place. Marcos had been wounded, caught in the leg by shrapnel.
I see. Do you think he wanted us to talk his brother into leaving, or to join the
Marcos was there to talk his brother down, I think. He was only interested in survival, and that meant getting the IDAP at the church.
He remained non-combatant then?
Protected by the Geneva Conventions, Article 51. But you gotta remember, right after the strike, total chaos. Injured, unarmed, alone, he set off towards the church.
that rifleman! To the right of us!
How bad were the casualties in that engagement?
The defenders were completely wiped out. Both sides, they must have lost at least a dozen men. Marcos left the ruins of his brother's home without a weapon, stumbled his way toward the church. Marcos was a civilian, a mechanic. He had to get to the church. Getting caught in the crossfire was a danger. He soon realized he had to keep his distance. An hour or two later, the government sent a truck to our camp. Soldiers searched the civilians for hidden weapons.
But they didn't find any.
No, and we'd already checked. It's vital our camps are weapon-free spaces, safe havens.
And Marcus, he must have made it through then.
Yeah, just about. We talked a few times after. I don't know, he seemed different.
I can imagine why. And what did he do after?
Hard to tell, but like I said, he kept looking for his brother.
Of course. And Marcus, his body, is still there in the churchyard?
Yeah. To think he survived all that just to return to the same spot less than a year later.
Nathan, you said that Alexis had been a recruit in the Altis Armed Forces.
Yeah, that's right.
So, his decision to leave the army, to join the guerrillas, do you know how that came about?
It's funny, I asked Marcos the same thing once. He just looked at me and shrugged. Later on, I heard their father had been killed in the Civil War, but I don't know. Whatever his reasons, Marcos seemed to have made peace with the fact he wouldn't change his brother's mind. NATO's been busy. Even managed to clear out a few mines. Special type, too. Very distinctive.
Remnants of the firefight, the one you've been telling me about.
That's right.
And Alexis, he'd been there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just met a guy claiming to have known him.
So, this firefight, it was... Just let me check the calendar. 8 days ago?
Yeah. Day of the NATO invasion. After the flashpoint on Stratus, there was chaos. Nobody seemed to know what to do. Finally, NATO got their act together, launched an assault on the Altis mainland.
And CSAT?
Caught off guard by the whole thing. They were there to fight guerrillas, not start World War III. So when CSAT dropped their support, government forces panicked. They were on the back foot. Needed to regroup. Major Gavras was put in charge, but it was a tall order. Gavras tried to fortify their position in the northwest, but it was a risk, and he ended up cut off. The guerrillas, they didn't hesitate, stormed its position, sent the survivors running.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, how did you come to hear this?
Kostas Dimitri, a lieutenant, and the major's adjutant. Along with Gavras, the two of them were trying to make it to a helipack.
Move 200 meters, front.
You say they were trying to make it.
Mm-hmm. NATO took it out.
How?
Tank buster. At that point, they had air supremacy. Caught it on the hop.
Did they have another plan?
Not exactly, but they decided to make a stand at the church.
Move to the church. Helicopter, 300 meters, west.
And the Major, what sort of a man was he? Was he respected?
Yeah, I mean, his reputation wasn't bloodied in the Civil War. Gavras was his own man, knew when to follow orders and when to adapt them.
Not the type to violate LOAC, then.
Well, that's a gray area.
Helicopter, 400 meters, northwest.
In the course of the firefight, the Major used a mine dispenser. You can think of it like a portable minefield. This thing throws 14 mines as much as 50 feet, spread out across a wide arc of fire in front of it.
And they're designed to maim rather than kill.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. They can still be lethal.
Helicopter, 400 meters, bearing 345.
The Major ordered Custis to place mines too. Alexis, alongside a bunch of guerrillas, they were approaching from the north. At the same time, a NATO squad was moving in on their position. They'd been outnumbered 10-1. Like it or not, these mines represented their best, maybe only way of making an act. To activate the mine dispenser, they could either set a timer or trigger it remotely.
Area clear. Hostile! Right. Car,
They scattered the
100
mines and
meters,
sat
right
tight,
flank.
waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
Hostile! 3, 2, fire at that officer! Officer, 75 meters, just up ahead!
Contact soldier!
Contact!
Contact soldier!
4!
Contact soldier!
Rifleman! Target's down!
The graveyard, it would have made for quite a kill zone.
Found an explosive.
They scattered the mines and sat tight, waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
Hostiles! Dimitiero! Engage that man! Left! Contact rifleman! Hostile down! Contact soldier! Contact rifleman! Contact man! Contact rifleman! Hostiles! Dimitiero! Fire at that soldier! Grenade! Contact machine gun! Contact rifleman!
Major Gobber's still in the fighting. I guess it made sense for him to target the point of entry, choke points, you know.
We've got an explosive here.
They scattered the mines and sat tight, waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
Clear. Rifleman, right up ahead. 8, 9, fire at that soldier. Just...
Man's inhumanity. It's really seldom.
Dimitiero! Engage that man! Behind us!
sniper!
Attacking!
Dimitiero! Attack the sniper! Left!
Copy, I'm on it!
Dimitiero! Engage that man!
Attacking!
And Alexis, he took part in the fighting.
Yep, he'd been in the thick of it.
Attacking!
Area clear. Left. Contact.
Finally, the message came. Second helo was inbound.
They dispatched another.
Yeah, it was a risk, sure, but government forces were in free fall and the major was important. They just had to get to a different LZ before reinforcements turned up and cut them off.
Clear.
There was only one way into the church, so placing mines around the entrance, that would have been a pretty decent play. They scattered the mines and sat tight, waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
Contact, man! Target neutralized! Imitiero! Attack the sniper! Contact, sniper! Contact, man! Grenade! Grenade! Contact rifleman! Contact, soldier!
Contact, man!
Fire at that soldier, just up ahead!
Contact, soldier!
Loads of guys got injured. The mine played, man's inhumanity. It's really something. Finally the message came. Second helo was inbound.
They dispatched another.
Yeah, it was a risk, sure, but government forces were in free fall and the major was important. They just had to get to a different LZ before reinforcements turned up and cut them off.
Talk to me about the Major. What happened when he returned? Did he survive the war?
Yeah, he did. He's pretty much the reason NATO's invasion lasted 3 days instead of 1. You heard about the fierce fighting at Kalikori, right?
Yes, a colleague of mine covered that, actually.
Well, that was Gavris. He held the line till the government capitulated. And now, actually, he's involved in the peace process.
Parachutes, 400 meters, east!
One, form on me. Dimitido, board that vehicle. Car, machine gunner, 75 meters, left.
Lieutenant Dimitriou. He came to IDAP, to our camp. The AAF provided us with information on the mines. Guy was a wreck, but his training had kicked in. He documented the minefields, well, as best he could. But for Marcos, it was already too late. He'd already found one. Poor bastard.
And the wounded? Did Costas have anything to say about them?
Off the record.
Pen's leaving paper.
His name's come up in connection to a war crime. There's allegations he carried out a summary execution.
Okay. You've mentioned Alexis was with the guerrillas. Do you know what became of him?
No, his fate's unknown, but I can only imagine he's dead, buried somewhere. Some unmarked grave, like so many others.